welcome to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and as always, thanks so much for being here today. I really hope you enjoyed the show, where we're going to highlight an excellent individual, which I hope that you'll enjoy getting to know. His name is Tom Duffy, and he is the professor of music and director of university bands at Yale University, based in New Haven, Connecticut. And Tom, so nice to have you. Thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on your show.
Well, I wanted to be able to highlight a wonderful individual from Yale, and you have been kind enough to say yes. So why don't we introduce the viewer to you? Take us back to your background. Tell us about yourself.
I guess it depends on how far back you want to go, but 40 years ago I came to Yale and began to direct the Yale University Bands. There was a concert band, there was a marching band. We established a jazz ensemble, and for the last 40 years I've directed these three bands. I've been professor of music in the School of Music, where I have taught courses in jazz, jazz history, arranging, the history of the wind band, score reading and analysis. And most recently I have also been appointed clinical professor in the School of Nursing. I've developed an intervention with the head of the nurse practitioners program to teach people through a musical intervention how to use their stethoscopes in diagnosing heart, lung, and bowel sounds. During my time at the university, I've been the acting and the deputy dean of the School of Music, and life is good. My compositional training, my doctorate is in composition, Cornell University. My teachers were Karel Husa, a famous composer who wrote music about the human condition, and Stephen Stuckey, wonderful contemporary composer, both the late Karel Husa and the late Stephen Stuckey. And my first degree from the University of Connecticut was music education. I thought I might want to be a teacher, and in fact I am. And my master's degree was Master of Fine Arts in Composition. I was bitten by the composing bug, studied with a fine contemporary composer named Charles Wittenberg. So my real goal was to finish my schooling, to get my doctorate, and then go to New York and hang out with the theater people. I was a child of the 60s. I wanted to enjoy theater and fun and rifling through the garbage to find props for the show, and that didn't happen. I had a call when I was finishing my degree to come down and do the interim position of director of bands, and things went well. They kept me, and now 40 years later, I'm beginning to notice an improvement.
Did you think as a child, was performing as an artist ever something that you thought about, or did you always think you'd go the education route?
As a kid, I just loved to play music. My first instrument was an accordion because my mom and dad, I'm going to date myself now, used to watch Ed Sullivan, and they had a little puppet named Topo Gigio. And one night Topo Gigio played a puppet accordion, and my mom said, "That's great." And I thought she meant the accordion, but she meant the puppet. So I took accordion lessons, and I just wanted to play music. I was a rock and roll guitar player, and had no intention of kind of majoring in music in college. My first degree in college was pharmacy, and that lasted about as long as organic chemistry lasted. My second degree was sociology, and that lasted a semester, and then I went into music. But my goal was to get a college degree and to play, but I was never good enough at any instrument to really consider a professional career, except for composing, which I did have an aptitude for. I went to Catholic school for my elementary schooling, and they did not have the kind of music program that got people started, or at least not people like me, that got them started in instruments the way that led to, some of the professional opportunities.
So as you were going through education, you decided you were going to go the composing route, or what in music decided your path? I mean, you have 3 degrees. What was it that you wanted to accomplish?
That's a terrific question. I'm going to give you a bizarre answer. So I went to college. This was during the Vietnam War. I was on a college campus, University of Connecticut, during protests and the like. And my goal was to get a college degree. My dad taught there. He was a professor. I wanted to prove myself. And so I'm a college degree, pharmacy, sociology, music. And I thought I'll hedge my bets and make it music education. But I was really inspired by one of my colleagues, who's now the president of the University of Hartford, Gregory Woodward, and I were kind of part of 3 or 4 people that were very serious about writing music and contemporary music. In fact, all music. I started the jazz, one of the jazz ensembles there, and we all played jazz and rock and everything. So it was, in my senior year, I think that Greg and I and some others got very serious about music. And when I finished, I did my student teaching and had my certification and said, I'm not sure that the players in even the best high schools around will play what I need to play, what I need to write as a composer. So I was seduced into composition by my colleagues and by a brilliant composer, a man named Charles Wittenberg, who lived in Storrs, went to my church. I'd known him all my life. And he just was brilliant, a wonderful man, and the combination of the two kept me in the business, I guess.
Composing, would you say that is where your heart lies?
I'm not, that's one of the places. I got a big heart, right? So I love conducting. I love guest conducting. I like writing it and then making it happen and bringing it to life. I'm not just a theorist. I like playing. I still play in my college rock band every summer. But I think the best way for me to get my message delivered, whatever that message might be, and it varies from the piece, is through writing music. And I love the hedonistic pleasure of sounds and what they do to my brain. So I would say that my heart is bicameral. It's conducting and teaching and then composition. I don't think I'd ever take a day off and say, I think I have nothing to do today, I'll write music. It's always, I have a commission, oh my God, I've got to get this done in the next week. And you got these 4 lines on the staff that are your prison bars till you get to the end and you get the double bar at the end, which means you're finished. And then it was the greatest experience. But when you're in it, it isn't necessarily that much fun.
Tell us about your experience at Yale. How did you find them, or how did they find you?
I was a graduate student at Cornell. I was in my second year. My job was being a TA for the concert band. And at the end of May in 1980, the director of bands at Yale University, Richard Thurston, left after 2 years to take a dean's position in Oklahoma. And the university in late May said, oh, good Lord, call around the Ivies, find a grad student that can come fill in for a year and we'll have a search. And they called the director of bands at Cornell University, Morris Stith, who to this day I thank for my job at Yale, and said, do you know anybody that could do this? And he said, yep, I've got this grad student who's doing the concert band, and he's directing the second jazz ensemble, and he's written music for the marching band. And they said, well, there's also a position, it's a bicameral position. He has to teach in the School of Music. And Mr. Stith said, well, he is getting a doctorate in composition and theory from Cornell. I think he can handle that. So with that reference, I got a call on a Monday from David Mills, who was the assistant for the bands. And Tuesday, I drove down from Cornell. Tuesday, I met with Bart Giamatti and John Wilkinson and Howard Lamar. And Thursday, they hired me for a year. So I took a leave of absence from Cornell. Fortunately, I had finished all my tests and my exams. I was looking at 3 long years of being cheap graduate labor for Cornell University. And I came to Yale. And the year went very well. And they asked me if I would stay. So I have had 5-year contracts, 40 years. So a number of, 8 years, 8 times, and it's been wonderful. I finished my doctorate by mail. We had no email then, and had a waiver of my campus residency.
Now, people are hearing 40 years. What has kept you at Yale for 40 years? How has it been?
Well, 40 years at any place, it's got its ups and downs. I think what's kept me here is that there have been fertile areas to explore throughout. So in the beginning, not ever having trained to be a director of bands, but having been in bands as a saxophonist my whole life, after the first year, I'd used up all the repertoire that I knew. I had to figure out how to run a band. And so for the next 5, 6, 7 years, I went to conferences and studied hard and got to the point where I was comfortable being the director of bands. And just at that time, the opportunity arose to work with the summer programs and be the residential head of colleges for summer programs. So I did my director of bands thing, and I was the residential head of colleges. And when that ended, Robert Blocker recently arrived at Yale, asked me if I would be his associate dean. So I had 9 years of associate and then deputy dean and then acting dean. and that was wonderful. And when that came to an end, I was elected president of my national organization, so I had a 10-year stretch leading up to my presidency for the College Band Directors National Association. Excuse me. And when that ended, I began to do this work with the nursing school and this intervention. So I've had, and it's all cumulative. So I'm still directing the bands, and I'm still in my national organization, and I still teach during the summer school. But it's gotten easier. So there have been new and interesting things at Yale to challenge me and to keep me busy, and new and different ways that I can contribute to Yale students having the best experience they can at school. So that has sustained me for 40 years. And I work with young people. Also, I should confess, my son is about to graduate from college. I started very late in life, but so starting 21 years ago, suddenly I had a lot more in common with young people than I had. And certainly for the last 8 years, I have really identified with the culture of the college student and the college-age student. And that has kept me more in touch than I would have been if I was in my 32nd through 40th year, but didn't have a teenager and a college student in my own life.
When a viewer will visit the website, what will they find there? I went there today and I read your bio. It was amazing. What will the viewer find when they visit the website?
If they visit the Yale Bands website, they will see the history of the bands. They will see the number of organizations that exist. They will see a little bit about me and my assistant, Stephanie Hubbard, who has worked with the bands and me for 35 years. They will learn about the students that are in the groups, the majority of whom are not music majors. Yale does not offer a major in performance, so those people who are music majors, the few in my groups that are majoring in music theory or history or composition. They will have the opportunity to click in and listen to some of the recordings that we've made and that are presented online, and they can read about our repertoire and our plans for the future. If they click my website, they can learn about me and hear all the crazy pieces that I've written over the last 40 years and see some of the things that I've been presenting.
Tell us about the university bands. There are different ones that are listed on the website. Do they perform in different locations throughout the world, or are they all here in Connecticut? Tell us about them.
So the Yale Concert Band was started in 1946 by my predecessor, Keith L. Wilson, and it is the high point of the wind and brass ensembles at Yale University. About 50 to 60 students, mostly undergraduates. We do 6 concerts a year in Woolsey Hall. We play for commencement. We play for other things as invited. And until COVID, since I came to Yale, we have toured somewhere every 2 years. So this group has gone around the world. We've played in the Carnegie Halls of many different countries. And we have, at least in the last 20 years, adopted social service as a component of our touring. So formally, where one might go to another country and play a concert of American music and then come home, which is a form of evangelism, now we go and we have genuine reciprocity. We play music from the country. We invite artists from the country to play with us. We bring composers and artists from whatever country we're visiting back to Yale afterwards to have genuine reciprocity. And relationships that I've established on tour are still going even now. There's also the Yale Precision Marching Band, which was in existence many years before I came to Yale. And that is a scatter band, which means they don't actually march. They do precisely what they want, choreographed spontaneity. There's a student drum major and a student manager and a whole series of student officers. We have room in that ensemble for people that don't play instruments. We have props people and people that write scripts and do photographs and carry equipment. So it is the most inclusive group in that anybody who wants to be in a marching band can find something to do in the Yale Precision Marching Band. And that's lots of fun. It plays at football games, at hockey games, at basketball games, and at other sports events as invited, and a variety of community events as well. The third ensemble is formerly the Yale Jazz Ensemble. Now it's called the Yale Jazz Ensembles, plural. And that began in 1982 when I came to Yale. There was a group being conducted by a graduate student. It was called the Yale Band Jazz Band. And so we took that group and formalized it a bit, made it into the Yale Jazz Ensemble, which is a name that students had with a group in the 1970s. And it has gone for 39 years. 2 years ago, I hired my colleague Wayne Escoffrey to be the director of the group. Wayne is a world-class jazz artist. He also teaches in the School of Music, teaches a jazz improvisation course, and he had coached, along with Jeff Fuller, another local jazz expert, he had coached combos, small groups in the program for the last 5 years. So the Yale Jazz Ensembles now is the Yale Jazz Ensemble, the big band, and 2 or 3 combos that Wayne is coaching right now. So it's a growing empire with lots of different threads. Jazz Ensemble, Concert Band, and Yale Precision Marching Band.
Okay, let's hold that thought. I'm Deborah Gilbert. You are tuned into Arts and Entertainment. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry, I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
You matter.
You matter.
You matter.
And your words matter too.
Your words matter.
What you say in the hallways at school or in the student section at a game matters.
Words can be hurtful.
Words can be offensive.
Words can leave scars.
Words can also inspire.
Support and uplift.
You and your words.
Are they both important?
As a matter of fact, yes.
And welcome back to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and we continue on with our conversation with Tom Duffy. And Tom, there are probably individuals, young people, that would like to be able to apply to Yale and be in the music department. Would they be studying with you? What are some of the things that you offer in your department specifically?
That's a terrific question. Yale's very different than many universities. Yale is a liberal arts college. So the music department is the entity in Yale College that offers the Bachelor of Music and the PhD in musicology and music theory. There are not performing groups in the music department. The band, the symphony, and the glee club are the division of undergrad ensembles in Yale College, and we are actually not part of the music department. All 3 of the directors of the large ensembles, the symphony, the band, and the glee club, myself, Professor Dalma, Professor Boughton, have bicameral appointments in the School of Music. The School of Music is Yale's graduate school, and that is the conservatory. That's where people go to get masters and doctorates and certificates and artist diplomas in all of the instruments. So if someone were to apply to Yale and want to play with my group or the symphony or the glee club, they could do that by audition. Except the marching band, they can be in the marching band. If you have a pulse, you can be in the marching band. The rest of them are by audition, and most of the people in my concert band at the moment, I think the majority are STEM majors, but these are smart people that apply to Yale University and have a background of playing instruments either in their area all-state orchestras or bands, or in their high school orchestras or bands, or local community bands in some cases, and they're quite talented. So they can play with us by audition.
You're mentioning audition. How would somebody be able to apply to do that? Is that through the website or through a phone call? How would somebody be able to connect to you?
So students who are admitted to Yale can audition for my programs. One does not need to audition to apply to Yale. In fact, if somebody applies to Yale and they want to have their music skills taken into account as an admissions criterion, then they would submit a supplemental recording with their admissions application. But once one is admitted to Yale, then they can go to the website and take a look at the application materials that are posted there and sign up for an audition with me during the first week of school in September.
I read in the newspaper that there was a celebration of your 40 years at Yale as a concert. Can you tell us about what happened?
Yes, my very generous students got together with my incredible assistant, Stephanie Hubbard, and they decided they were going to give me a 40th anniversary present and allow me to do an entire concert of my own music. And that turned actually into 2 concerts of my own music. The regular spring concert in April that I scheduled with my own music, and they had a surprise party for me on the 24th of April which was preceded by a short 1-hour concert of my music. So they gave me 2 concerts to program my own music. And people who are musicians, particularly rock musicians or composers, we're a little bit megalomaniac. We like to do things. Thanks for letting me talk about myself, by the way, for half an hour. But we do like that. So it was really fun for me to be able to program a whole variety of the 56 band pieces that I've written in my life, and show my students very different sides of me. If I were to do one of my pieces every year, you would only see 4 of those pieces in the course of being an undergraduate. So it allowed me to show them, my funny side and my sarcastic side and my political side and my emotional side, my romantic side. So just a tremendous gift of these students to put up with my music for 2 concerts. It was very nice. And then at the gathering after the second one, people came back. There were people at that gathering that had been first-year students, freshmen, my first year at Yale. My oldest students and friends who have now gone on to become important people and parents around the country. So it was just a wonderful day, a kind of a eulogy, but I was there to hear all the things people were going to say about me. It was wonderful.
The pandemic, how did it affect all of your musicians or you and your work? Tell us what happened.
Well, you're hearing the first effect of the pandemic right now. I'm getting over COVID as we speak, so forgive my coughing. The pandemic put a halt to some wonderful things that were in progress. The band was about to go to Dizzy's Club. The jazz ensemble was about to go to Dizzy's Club at Lincoln Center to play its second invitational there, and that was canceled. That's too bad. That's a very important credential. We managed to pick it up, and we did it 2 weeks ago. We went back and played at Dizzy's. And the concert band had a concert tour to Germany scheduled in May, which was canceled. We were going to go to Germany and play in some of the concert halls there, and then play for some of the refugees in the Tempelhof, formerly airport, but now the Tempelhof refugee camp outside of Berlin, canceled. So the immediate effect of the pandemic was that we lost all of the events that we had set up. Also, I direct the Ellington series at Yale, an invitational jazz series in the School of Music. All those artists that were going to come that year were canceled and postponed, and I'm trying to recover them now. But the most incredible impact was the students lost the socialness of getting together, of playing instruments other than by themselves. We did mount some virtual projects, but that still meant a student was by him or herself in a room playing an instrument. That's no different than practicing. And you practice and put up with that isolation so that you can meet with other people and enjoy the social activity of making music together. So that was very difficult. We had weekly meetings online. I played them music. I taught them about the history of the band, taught them about the history of jazz. Black Lives Matter also, the summer of Black Lives Matter hit in the middle of this. So I was able to go into the jazz, race, and gender course that I teach and offer my students some contact with some of the great black artists and the tendencies of dealing with socialness and race that have happened over the last century. So it gave us a chance to do some things I would never have had the time to do if our regular schedule of 5 weeks rehearsal and a concert repeat had been going on. It gave me a chance to ground them in the history of the Wind Band, the history of the Yale Band, and focus on some of the attributes of our socialness that we don't always focus on primarily. Getting along, camaraderie, concern for underrepresented constituencies. And I think the students are in a very different place now. Delighted to be back and playing. Although we have to play through masks with little slits in them. We have to put covers over our bells. And every time there is a COVID positive that has been in rehearsal, it wiped out everybody within 6 feet diameter of that person for 10 days. So we did not have a concert this year that did not have somebody missing because of COVID and did not lose a significant percentage of rehearsal time because of close contact isolation and COVID quarantine. So, but yet we've survived. So our socialness is intact. Our commitment to music is intact. We can still listen even if we can't play, but we're back to playing. So I hope we're through this, and I just feel bad for all the people that would have started instruments during this 2-year interdiction that didn't. And I hope there's a way for them to pick up that opportunity. as they go through school.
Well, as we start to run out of time, what does the end of 2022 look like? Do you have some concerts coming up?
School is over for the year, so on the academic calendar, I have 2 commencements coming up for which we'll play. And then our season begins again in September. The marching band will be appearing at football games. We will start our concert series in October. We have concerts in October and November. The jazz ensemble will start up again with a concert in October and December. And then the regular cycle will begin again.
Well, thank you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me. It's been a delight to talk to you, and thanks for letting me talk about myself and this. That I think I know more about me than anybody else, but it's nice to be able to do.
It's been wonderful. I'm
minutes.
so glad that you were able to share. I know the viewers will love it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And to all my viewers, again, if you're interested in being a guest or if you think you might like to volunteer, please contact me. I'm at artsandentertainment@mail.com. Well, I'm Deborah Gilbert. You have been tuned in to Arts and Entertainment. Again, I hope you had a super time with this wonderful guest. I'll talk to you next time. Have a great day. Bye-bye.